Kamala Harris, Anwar Ibrahim. One is a man, one is a woman, one is Malaysian, one is maybe Samoan-Malaysian, depending on who you believe. One is Prime Minister of Malaysia, one just lost an election. Yet, in my mind, they could not be more similar, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you why. I want to preface this by saying that I don't hate either one of them. This video is not to needlessly mock Kamala Harris or PMX, but it reflects my true thoughts, which I present to you, my audience. Believe me, don't believe me, unsubscribe or subscribe, definitely subscribe. Here are my thoughts on the disturbing similarities between Kamala Harris and Anwar Ibrahim. The similarities I'll be discussing are 4 things: campaigning style, domestic policy, foreign policy, and why people voted for them. Alright, let's get into it. So let's talk about the campaign rhetoric. So Kamala Harris' campaign theme was a new way forward, and Anwar Ibrahim's whole theme for Malaysia's administration during his term is Malaysia Madani. And for both of these people, their target audiences do not buy what they're trying to say. Kamala was vice president under Joe Biden, so I'm not really sure how that's a new way forward right there. Her candidacy basically came in just at the last minute after...
For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America.
Now, her campaign language is basically, we are better together, we are stronger when we are united, we can do anything so long as we join our hands. As for the Malaysia case, for Prime Minister Anwar, his whole idea right there is to create a society that is united, inclusive. But same thing with Kamala, sounds good, feels good, but I dare you, double dare you, tell me what Malaysia Madani is, tell me in the comments, don't cheat, don't look anywhere else, just tell me your honest thoughts right now. What do you think Malaysia Madani is? Pause this video and give yourself 5 seconds. Couldn't do it, right? That's the problem. Both Kamala Harris and Anwar Ibrahim face a problem because nobody actually knows what they're all about. And to be fair, it's not necessarily because their policies are not clear. I mean, for Kamala Harris, you can literally go to this website right here and you can know exactly what her policy positions are. And for Anwar Ibrahim, if you look and you dig, admittedly it does require effort, then you'll find out what it is right there. Whatever it is, the core problem remains. They are shaky domestic leaders. Now, make no mistake, Kamala Harris is a barrier breaker. She is the first female, first South Asian, and first Black Vice President of the United States of America, and her roles in public service and as the Attorney General of California have been incredible. But she had been criticized for being one of those unity, diversity advocates right there, but with no actual substance. It does say something if you are tasked with addressing the migration crisis, but people have nothing to really say about what it is that you did or didn't do, and you have a reputation for being an evasive communicator, to the point that probably the strongest thing that people can cite in support of your policy on anything is this.
You know, we have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke.
And now, back to Malaysia. When it comes to domestic politics right there, Anwar has been criticized over and over again for not actually bringing to pass a lot of the promises that he promised in the course of the elections. And a lot of the reforms that he basically advocated for have not actually come about. Now, a lot of this is arguable. You could say that Anwar is basically dealing with a very sensitive situation right there, but as the Prime Minister of the country, you do have to make sure that you exercise domestic leadership, to make sure that you shape the vision in a way that makes sense for the people in the country to know that they have a strong leader. Unfortunately, Anwar is very, very well known for not making statements on issues that are controversial and that actually require him to respond and show leadership as the Prime Minister of Malaysia. When Anwar faced the Allah SOP issue, basically he just did not respond, he did not fight, he did not talk to the Malaysian people, did not show leadership. And it's also a similarity that he shares with Harris. Kamala dodges questions left, right, front, and center, like she's known for doing this. And the reality is, if you can't answer questions without platitudes, talking about multiculturalism, and never actually solving problems, but just casually talking about how we need to be stronger together but provide no solutions, people are not going to think that you're authentic. No, far from it. In Harris's case, that's clear given her losses amongst the Latinos even, and the groups that she thought was going to support her because inclusivity. So we know that now, but for Anwar, well, just look on social media and you will see a ton of people just throwing shade at the man right here. And to the extent that social media is a mirror of reality, I have no idea what it is or what it isn't right here, but I think if things keep going this way and he doesn't get better at managing perceptions, then I think he has a very serious chance of actually losing the next elections. No joke, bro. I mean, I hope he won't because the alternative is far too terrifying. But anyway, I do think that it's a possibility. But to talk about that, I need to first talk about foreign policy. Now, foreign policy is really interesting because we get to see Kamala Harris and Anwar Ibrahim take completely different sides in a very controversial issue, but still commit the same sins for the voters back home in both Malaysia and the United States. Without further ado, let's talk about the Middle East. Kamala Harris was a part of the Biden administration when the October 7th attacks took place, and she presided over an administration that sent billions upon billions of US dollars worth of bombs and financial support over to the Israeli regime, while Anwar Ibrahim has been resolutely against that and has been going out giving speeches leading the Muslim world, saying we need to kick Israel out of the United Nations, so horribly diametrically opposed, yet oh so similar. You see, both Kamala Harris and Anwar Ibrahim are managing the Middle East conflict in ways that their people do not actually agree with. Kamala Harris and the Biden administration have been funding a war that American people do not want. The American people are not happy with the way that their tax dollars are being taken away when the US is facing problems with infrastructure, with managing a whole lot of other social problems along the way, with homelessness on the streets of San Francisco, where extreme wealth and extreme poverty coexist. They do not want their overly indebted nation to continue being in debt so that people overseas can actually just receive money in order to perform more and more killing along the way. For the Anwar administration, what's happening though is a slightly different problem. It is true that Malaysia is a Muslim majority nation, and historically we have rejected diplomatic relations with Israel and also have been strong advocates for the Palestinian cause. But here you have, like America, a very, very indebted nation, 1.2 trillion ringgit in debt at the moment right there, but still a prime minister that's going out and saying we need to give financial aid. We need to do everything that we can. No matter what, we must help our brothers and sisters in need. In my opinion, that is a seriously weird take because in Malaysia, you have poor infrastructure, literal sinkholes in the middle of the road, and people losing access to the free medication that they used to have when they went to government hospitals. But then the Prime Minister comes out and says, you know what? We're gonna go right ahead and throw out yet another couple of $1 million right there to this bunch of people that I identify with, because the humanity of these people matters more than the humanity of all the people within my actual country, because I must save people who are not even related to my country and who do not deserve the money of my people, simply because I want my brothers and sisters to see me as a hero for reasons that are only known to me. On Kamala's part, I can see why she lost to America first, and the very common sense assertion that at the end of the day, a country should serve its people. Whether that is going to happen or not is a separate question right there. But I can see why the American people voted for America first right there, and hopefully you can see why it is that I, as a Malaysian, would be very, very happy if my Prime Minister would be very much Malaysia first. Finally, I want to talk about why people still support Kamala Harris and they still support Anwar Ibrahim along the way. As I said, I don't hate them. I think that they're great in many different ways, but at the same time, I do think that people support both of them because they're too afraid of the alternative. That's definitely true for Kamala Harris. I mean, the whole election, Democrats were basically saying, you know what, no matter what, go out there and vote. As long as we don't get Donald Trump as president, everything will be totally peachy keen. It's a fact. A lot of people out there did not like Donald Trump, do not like Donald Trump right now. And for that reason, a lot of people chose to vote for Kamala Harris because they were afraid of the unknown, which apparently is going to come to pass. But for Anwar, what's happening right there is that a lot of people will continue to vote for him because they're way too afraid of past. They do not want Malaysia to be overtaken by a political party that positions itself as the face of a particular religion. They do not want people who constantly complain in Parliament about DAP without actually contributing anything that's meaningful towards the conversation. And fearing that, they go out and they vote for Anwar. But it's not because Anwar is the great leader. It's because he is less bad compared to everything else. And that's a shame because if I think about it, Anwar definitely was a hope for many people. In prison and fighting for a new pact in democracy for so many years, it's unquestionable that he definitely changed the shape of Malaysia's politics, and it's not in question that he is the hope of a lot of people in Malaysia. It's sad to see a situation where he may not be respected, especially if he puts his priorities in the wrong places. If he doesn't care about the Malaysian people that he's supposed to serve, and he continues to push himself out there for people whom he shouldn't really be putting so much focus on. Like, I understand the whole idea of humanity, right? Like, if people are suffering, sure, it's a sign of strength to be able to help them. But at the end of the day, charity begins at home. You really do have to ask yourself, are you really helping the people close to you? We are the people who supported Anwar to become the Prime Minister. We are the people who fought for him when he was in jail, believed in him, and cast our votes so that he could become the leader of our nation. In the same way that Kamala Harris isn't likely going to be very successful, if she keeps on going out with this "we can do it together" stuff right there, the next time that she goes out there and she tries to campaign for an election, this whole idea of a keluarga Malaysia doesn't really seem very convincing. If you're not really serving the Malaysian people, isn't really going to fly if you're constantly diverting your attention outside of Malaysia and you constantly want to help people that you shouldn't really be helping in preference to your own people, the people of Malaysia. Now, I want to emphasize again though that I have nothing against these two leaders. It's just that in many similar ways, they face problems right here that are impeding them and that will continue to impede them, I think, if they do not actually address them right there. To Ms. Harris, I hope that she will do well if she decides to ever compete again in an election right here. She may become the very first female president yet, but as she rightly said, sometimes the fight takes a while. But for Prime Minister Anwar, Dato Sri Anwar, I really hope that somehow or another you're going to be able to be the leader that we, the people of Malaysia, need. You brought us onwards on a new path right here, and I hope that you'll take it towards the end and do the very best that you can in serving us, Malaysians, so that we can put Malaysia first and bring it forward into the international stage. And I will see you in the next video.